Great Scott! Great Scott! Great Scott!
Hello everyone and welcome to Great Scott. I'm Scotty V. It's good to see you. This week I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that I'm a Howard Stern fan. I know, a Superman fan who's also a fan of Howard Stern. What a strange oxymoron. Anyway, recently he's been talking a lot about superheroes due to the over the summer release of several big budget superhero films: Thor, Captain America, X-Men, Green Lantern. Howard's a very, very big comic book fan. He loves these comic book movies. He wants them to keep coming. He says things like, make every comic book character, make Ant-Man, make any comic book character you can find, as long as it's good. Oftentimes, Robin, who does the news on the show, she's been on the show for over 30 years with Howard, or around 30 years. She does stories based on the idea that this Man of Steel movie is getting made. So when she reads a story in the paper or on the internet about the Superman movie, she sometimes brings it up. And Howard always gets angry that no one wants to do anything new with Superman. The argument is, why can't they just make a new Superman movie that doesn't have anything to do with what we've seen before, that's just Superman in his suit having an adventure? Why do we always have to see an origin story, an exodus from Krypton, Jor-El, the Kents, how he learns how to be Superman? One of the more recent ones that I heard was Robin saying that the movie was going to be about a Superman trying to find his place in the world, and Howard's response was, didn't we just see that with the last Superman movie? Which of course I imagine he's referring to Superman Returns, where Superman was gone for 5 years and came back to find out that much of the world had moved on, and Lois and some of the people that he loved didn't find him that important in their lives anymore. That's not what this movie looks to be about, this new one. And of course he's going off, much like a lot of fans do on the internet, just by hearing or seeing something very small. In fact, Howard doesn't just sound like he does a lot of research on the Superman movie himself, or that it's anything he particularly cares about finding a lot about. He does get very excited when a comic book movie gets released, and he does see them sometimes on a screener earlier than the rest of us, which makes me a little angry since we're all just big fans as he is. And of course he's not going to see this, and if he does, I hope he talks about me. But Howard, calm down, and this goes for everybody else. The movie doesn't look at all to be anything we've seen before, although it is something of an origin in that it's the early years of Superman and him trying to find out how he wants to go about being who he is. But that's not really anything we saw. In the old Donner films, we did see an origin. We did see him sent from Krypton. The Kents were there. Jor-El did send him from the planet, but when he became Superman, he just sort of became Superman. The one moment he wasn't, and then the next moment he was in his Superman suit flying out of the fortress. So there wasn't a lot of becoming. There was early days with Clark Kent and the kids making fun of him at school or whatever, and him running to the farm, and then Jonathan having a heart attack. But there wasn't a lot of value instilling, or it was just the idea that these were salt of the earth farmers, and that's probably why he became Superman. In this case, it looks like he's to be doing a lot of traveling around the world, learning how other people live, maybe finding out more about himself, and also, of course, with Diane Lane and Kevin Costner playing Jonathan and Martha Kent, we're going to see some Kent stuff too, which is very important, and I hope that we see a little more of the interaction, their relationships, and what he learns from them more than we have seen before. Now, on Smallville, we could argue we saw plenty of relationship with Jonathan and Martha, and we saw plenty of how he goes about becoming Superman, but that's also kind of an alternate take and what might have happened if the Superman universe was the way it is on Smallville. Now it looks like we're going to see something that might be a little closer to the comics, but also might be a little bit darker in terms of maybe him being angry in certain spots, Jor-El and some of the stories coming out about General Zod. It's just very exciting. And General Zod in the old days was a little campy, even though Terrence Stamp did a fantastic job. I'm looking forward to seeing what Michael Shannon brings to the role and how different it's going to be. So when someone like Howard or other fans says, didn't we already see Zod? I mean, look at these Spider-Man movies. We had an origin movie with the Green Goblin. Then we had a second movie with Dr. Octopus, and it was different. Then we had a third movie with 3 villains in it, and they were all different. But that was the franchise. That was, they started a franchise and then they moved with each one with the same cast. And so far, the most recent Superman movie did not succeed the way they wanted it to in relaunching a Superman franchise. The hope was that perhaps by connecting it loosely to the Donner films, they'd be able to capture the fans who love those movies and keep them going as sort of a pseudo sequel, but at the same time capture a new generation of fans who love this movie for what it was. Didn't work, although I think it was fairly successful monetarily. They just weren't happy with it, and a lot of fans weren't happy with it, and I think a lot of fans won't be happy with anything, whatever they get. But we'll see what happens, and I just say calm down, and I love the things that are coming out about this, and I think it's going to be great and different, even if it is somewhat of an origin story. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and remember, always look up in the sky.